29,029 vertical feet in 36 hours. It sounds a little crazy, but that's what I signed up for. If you're new here to the channel, my name's EJ, and one of the things I like to do here on the channel and in life in general is every year I set one physical challenge for myself. Things in the past, I've run marathons, I've done extended hikes like a 3-day Pemi Loop in New Hampshire, or hiking the entire length of Letchworth State Park. And this year, I landed on the 29029 challenge. Let's start with what is 29029. This is an adventure. I hesitate to call it race because it's not a race, it's more of a challenge where you start at the base of a ski resort and you hike up the mountain and take the gondola down. And in 30 hours, you need to do that enough times to hike the entire elevation of Mount Everest. This challenge was set up by a few people, but one of the people is Jesse Eitzler. You may know him from, he's an author. He wrote the book Living with a Seal, where he lived with David Goggins, which is kind of crazy. He's also the purveyor of a number of different companies, Coconut Water, Big Ass Calendar, jet company, so a very successful entrepreneur. And one of the things that he realized in his own life is that you have to set these high goals for yourself if you want to challenge yourself and see what you're capable of. And so with that in mind, and with the help of a few other people, he set up this adventure challenge. I will note that there are a number of these challenges across North America, some in Canada, but there are a bunch of locations that you can sign up for. And shockingly, this sells out very quickly. I wanted to do this last year, and I went on the website, I think it was like 6 hours after the events launched, and it was already sold out across the entire country. So this year, I actually set an Outlook reminder for myself to make sure I got in there and got to sign up. I will note that despite that audience for it, despite the demand, this is not a cheap thing. This is not you sign up for a marathon and it's a few $100s. It's a $5,000 plus adventure challenge. And that's a very steep rate, at least for me. It may not be for some other people, but it was an investment. Now, I'll get into why I'm doing it later and why I was comfortable with that cost, but you should be aware it is quite an outlay of cash. You could go to Europe, like we've done several times, for less money and have an absolutely fabulous trip. So it is a commitment. For that amount, you do get a number of things, including resources. So there are participant groups on Facebook and through their newsletter. There's a website that you log into. You get training programs to train up for this. It's a 20-week program, and I'm doing the race in October, so I've not yet received that. I'm filming this in March, but that walks you through how to train for this event. And of course, while you're there, it includes your room on the mountain. In some locations, I guess this is like a fancy tent that they set up, but at Stratton, it's an actual hotel. All your food, of course, all of the support. So you get massage rooms, you get mid-mountain water and fuel, all the snacks, that sort of thing. And then the event itself. So I mentioned you hike up this mountain enough times to get 29,029 feet, the elevation of Everest, but you actually take the gondola down. So that fee helps cover the cost of essentially running this mountain on top of all those other amenities. Well, all that said, if it's so expensive, why did I sign up? Well, there are a number of reasons. The first is I actually love hard challenges. I mentioned running a marathon earlier. I did that after training for a year and I lost 30 pounds to do it. I mentioned doing the Pemi Loop. That was 2.5 days worth of hiking, 2 overnights. Had never done that before, very hard. When you do those hard challenges, you actually realize what you're capable of. And when you get into hard things in your life, you know that you can get through them because you've already done those hard things. So as I mentioned, I try to do one thing like this every year, not always to this extent, but I do try to do one hard physical activity every year. Also, if you've watched this channel for a while, I put on a little bit of weight that I need to get rid of, and having a goal like this, and frankly laying up the money, will keep me serious enough to lose that weight. I'm already down 10 pounds through getting ready for that. And the final thing is, the reason I put on that weight, and one of the challenges I have both in training now and will probably come up during the event itself, is I've got a bum foot. I've got bone spurs in my right foot that I'm working through. I've been working with a podiatrist on. I've gotten a couple of cortisol shots in there. doing my stretches, strengthening that area, losing weight should certainly help. But I needed a challenge to tough my way through that. And so that's why I'm doing it. But frankly, I also saw a few YouTubers doing it, and it looked like a lot of fun for that weekend. Speaking of other YouTubers, so before I laid out that much cash, I certainly did a little bit of research on what to expect. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Kara and Nate. And that's a couple that's traveled all around the world doing a lot of fun stuff. And they did it without stopping. They didn't sleep, and they were able to do it in 25 hours. Now, I'm not saying I can do it without sleeping, and I'm not saying I can do it in 25 hours, but I thought that was a unique add-on to the challenge, and they frankly made it seem like a lot of fun. They did show some of the struggling, maybe there was some more off camera, but it just seemed like a really, really great time. There are some other YouTubers that I watched that didn't have such a great time, that really struggled through it, and I don't know what it says about me, but that is also an attractive aspect of this. And I'm also looking forward to bringing my girlfriend along for the weekend. So in addition to having the hotel room, which will be close by to the trail and I can go and take a shower or take a quick nap, we've also rented a house at the mountain for her and the dogs. She can't stay in the hotel room. That's part of the gig, but she'll be there to cheer me on. We haven't done anything like this in a long time, and I do think these sorts of things are bonding experiences. All right, so my particular 29029 will be at Stratton Mountain in Vermont. There were a couple locations that were close to me. There was here in Mont Tremblant, which I absolutely love the Tremblant area, but for some reason that was already sold out the minute it opened. I don't know if they allowed prior people to register again for that or what the deal was. So I went to my second option, which was Stratton. All right, so the particulars for Stratton Mountain for this race. Again, have to do 29,029 feet of elevation gain. At Stratton Mountain, that means 17 trips up the mountain, and of course, riding back down. Each trip up the mountain is 1.35 miles and roughly 1,750 vertical feet. And that makes for a total of 22.5 miles that I'll be hiking that day. I've certainly done that in the past, but that's included a lot of downs as well, and not just going straight up. So that'll be an interesting aspect of this. I will be doing this actually just after my 45th birthday. The race is scheduled for October. I'm just looking up on my big ass calendar now. It is scheduled for October 24th. So I turn 45 on the 21st. This is how I'll be celebrating my birthday. Training for the challenge. I mentioned I've got a bum foot right now, and I've gained a little bit of weight. So what am I doing to get ready? The first is cleaning up my diet. I haven't really drank since January 1st. I've had a few nights where I've had a couple Guinnesses here and there, but for the most part, I've cut hard alcohol out of my life. That's probably what's responsible for me losing the weight. I've also made sure I'm getting more protein, less carbs, again, to try to shave that weight down. On top of that, I do work with a virtual trainer, and she's fantastic. We've been working mostly on mobility, core, and starting to work on legs, a lot of lunges, a lot of step-ups. I will continue to do that kind of slow progression on top of I'm walking more. So I'm trying to make sure I at minimum get 10,000 steps every day. And I'm trying at least once or twice a week to get at least 20,000 steps in preparation. That has the benefit of not just helping my cardiovascular system, but also helping me get some miles on this bum foot. Now, I can't overdo it, right? If I overdo it, I'm gonna hurt myself. So I'm trying to walk this fine balance of I gotta exercise, I gotta lose the weight, I gotta get myself ready, but I can't do that too hard, too fast, or this thing's never gonna heal correctly. So right now I'm trying to walk that line. In June, I will get the 20-week training program, and I will do that on top of then working with my trainer. On top of that, I actually have 2 long walks planned for this year. The first is going back to New York and Letchworth Park in August to do the Mammoth March. And the next one's not defined because the trail's not yet done, but at the end of this summer, they are supposed to have built fully out what they're calling the Adirondack Trail, which is, I think, 34 miles where you walk from Tupper Lake, New York to Lake Placid, New York. If you watch this channel enough, you know I love that area. And so we're gonna go do that. We may do that over 2 days and not just a single day. But again, that's another training activity to get ready just for being on my feet for that many miles. And then lastly, I'm gonna do a lot of hiking. So I wouldn't be shocked if on this channel you start to see me climbing a number of 4,000 footers. I'm very fortunate that nearby in New Hampshire, within an hour, 2 hours, I have basically all of these 4,000 foot mountains that I can climb. So I'll be hitting the woods and hitting those mountaintops again as part of that training regime. What challenges am I expecting to have as part of the 29029? So first and foremost, my foot. I would say of things I'm worried about the most, it's my foot. My knees are okay, but it's really my foot that I'm the most concerned about. Second is just wear and tear. So again, I'm a little heavy right now, got to get that weight down. But that long on your feet can really impact your knees and your hips and your back. And I've got a bad back. So that's kind of my second concern, is just foot, and then the rest of everything else. Sleep I'm worried about, but I'm not concerned. So I am able to function on not much sleep. I've been able to do that since I was 19 years old. Started my career working up in Alaska, where we would do 30-hour days. I know that sounds crazy, but we would do 30-hour days, sleep for 6 to 8 hours, and then get up and do it again, working on ships up out of Dutch Harbor. So I'm no stranger to staying up for 20, 25 hours. Who knows? If I'm going slow because of my foot and I'm at risk of not hitting that
36 hours
cutoff, I will stay up, or I will try to stay up to do it. The other, I would say the last thing I am concerned about in kind of my grouping of concerns is just making sure that I get my nutrition right. So I have a very sensitive stomach. Dairy will set me off. Anything with spice will set me off. So I have to be careful what I ingest, but I also have to be careful that I do ingest calories and enough calories to keep me going. So that'll be a challenge. I'll have to figure out a strategy of, hey, I need to make sure I'm consuming at least X number of calories per hour. Even if it sucks to get it down, you got to get that food in you. I talked about watching some of the other YouTubers who have struggled with this, and I would say that is one of the things that I've noticed, right? They get 16 hours in, they're not hungry, they start shaking, they feel weak. That's a lack of calories, and you got to make sure you're actually putting fuel into the furnace to keep burning. All right, that's the crazy challenge I signed up for this year. I'm really looking forward to the 29029 and bringing it here to the channel. We'll see how I feel that day and if I'm able to keep a smile on my face, but I am looking forward to it for sure. If you want to see one of those other crazy adventures that I did in the past, you can click here. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.